hard to put into words the human reality of suffering. Suffering is one of the few things that is universal to every person. We all experience it in one form or another. But it's also incredibly personal, and everyone experiences it in different ways. For some of us, we come from supportive families, we have great friends, and we have a lot of people rooting for us. But that doesn't make our lives easy. We still know a thing or two about hardship. For others of us, we don't even have that. It feels like the odds have been stacked against us since day one. Some of you have been through things that those around you can't even imagine. And for that, I'm sorry. As Christians, this is a hard idea for us to accept, because we believe in a God who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-loving. So how can we reconcile that this God who loves us so much, who can do anything, who cares about each of us individually, how can that God allow these terrible things to happen? When I was at the end of junior high, I was, like most people, cautiously optimistic to head into high school. I was hoping that, along with my friends, we could have, maybe it wouldn't be perfect, but we'd make it through. Unfortunately, though, in the end of junior high, my parents decided that we should move to BC. Our family lived there, and they thought that they always wanted to go back. So my summer vacation was spent alone in my basement in a new place where I didn't know anyone. It was hard, and a lot of you guys have experienced the same thing this past summer. When school started, I was hopeful that I'd meet some people, make a friend or two, and I'd get to start the next chapter of my life, but didn't quite work out that way. Every day, whoever I tried to connect with, it just seemed like they didn't want any part of me. They thought I was weird and an outsider, and they wouldn't accept me. I remember feeling just scared to go to school every day, scared to face their rejection again and again. I even switched schools to try to see if it would make it any better, but unfortunately, that didn't help. Eventually, my parents decided that I should just do school online, which, again, you guys have had to experience this as well. I had to do it halfway through the semester, so not only was I starting school all over by myself, but I had to cram like mad just to finish on time, let alone get good grades. In this extended period of isolation, I started to go into a depression. I slept all day, was awake all night, and I felt like I had no control over myself. I'd look at myself in the mirror and think, come on, what are you doing? It's no wonder that no one wanted to hang out with you. I didn't like myself at all. Things weren't good. Eventually my parents decided that the move wasn't the right call, and we came back to Alberta, but the damage had been done. I'd been wounded, and it wasn't something that could be just fixed like that. Honestly, I think I'm still dealing with some of those things even today. Now, a lot of you guys have similar stories, and a lot of them are a lot worse. And it still begs the question, how can a God who's all-powerful and who loves us deeply allow these things to happen? If he was trying to teach me something, why didn't he do it in a better way or an easier way if he's God? There's a book of the Bible that talks about this. It's called Job. It's about a guy named Job. And Job was a great guy. He had a lot of wealth, he had a big family, and everyone in the community loved him. He was so generous, he was respectful and kind to all, and he always made sure to follow God's law. He never deviated from it. He was considered an upright and blameless guy. Now, Satan wasn't happy about this. He approaches God and he says, "Look, God, it's great that Job loves you and all, but the only reason he does is because you've given him so much. If you took that all away, I guarantee Job wouldn't be singing your praises." God says, "All right, go ahead, take what he has, but make sure you spare his life." So Job ends up having the worst day of his life. A couple of his servants run up to him, and first one says, "Job, all of your possessions, your livestock, your wealth, everything, it's been stolen. And what hasn't been stolen has been destroyed in a fire." Instantly, Job goes from the wealthiest man in his community to having nothing. Immediately after that, another servant approaches Job and says, "Job, your children, they were all eating together in one of your houses, and the house collapsed. They all died. Not one of them survived." A couple days after that, Job's inflicted with this terrible skin disease. He has sores all over his body. He's in constant pain and he looks awful. How would you feel if you had to go through something like that? Job was in despair. His friends approached him after all this, and they saw his sorry state and they had no idea what to say. They sat down and just were silent. They had no idea what to do. Eventually Job speaks and says, "Guys, I regret that I was ever born. Life is just suffering to me. I don't know why I'm here." He says that he is a good man. He's done what's right. He's followed God's commands to the most highest degree. And yet, everything was taken from him. He goes on to say, "Look around us. There's evil people all around us, people who are selfish, who only care about themselves, who just want to get ahead, who manipulate and use others, and they're doing just fine. Their children are safe, they're wealthy, they're doing awesome. How can this be? What's the point of all this?" Job's friends try to talk him out of it. They say to him, "Oh, Job, there must have been something that you did, and you need to turn to God and repent, and he'll definitely restore you." But Job isn't having it. He says, "Guys, there's nothing. Point out one thing I've done wrong. You can't. I didn't deserve this. This isn't fair." I'm sure a lot of us have experienced things like this, where bad things happen and we can't explain why. It seems like there's no rhyme or reason. Something's wrong in the world. Now, this isn't where Job's story ends, but for now, I want to pause here, because I want you guys to really wrestle with these questions. When you look around at the world, can you see that? Does it feel like something is off? Things aren't as they should be? When you look at your own life, can you see things that just aren't fair? Just don't make sense? Talk about these things in your small groups and really I want you guys to wrestle with them. These are important questions. Again, for those of you who've been through terrible things, I'm sorry. But the Bible has a voice, an empathetic voice that's been there too.